We are live.
We are live. Good evening, everybody. Happy Monday. If you are live with us, please let us know. Say hi. Callie and I are going to just continue to share this onto our page and to some other groups. And if you are live with us, please help us share as well. We have an awesome show for you guys tonight, so we hope that you guys will tune in, engage with us, tag a few friends to watch this episode with you. And it'll just be a moment before we get started here. Oh, let's see. And please let me know if I'm blurry. We kicked the kids off of their Wi-Fi, so I may still be a little blurry. It may still kind of try to prep itself for me. So let me know if I'm blurry or not. Say hi to us if you're watching us live. Tag a friend, let them know we're on. We have an awesome show for you guys tonight. We're going to be talking about marriage and just all the things that kind of comes with it, the challenges that people don't ever really want to talk about, those sort of things. So it should be a pretty fun and interesting topic. And on top of that, we've got two amazing individuals here with us to kind of talk through marriage with us. So it should be pretty interesting. Hi, Laura. How are you? Thank you so much for tuning in. And again, if you are just tuning in, please say hi. Tony says red. She's now pink. We got to change her name. Nichi Liliana. So we got to change her name. I am going to share this onto my page really quick. And then I will come back and chat with you guys. All right, we've got Bali from Minnesota. Hi, Bali. Thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you being here. I know it's late where you are. It's 9:06 your time. So thank you for being here. I know it's quite late. So we'll get started in a second here. Callie should be almost done sharing, and then we will get started. Hi, Heidi. How are you? Thank you for tuning in. All right. You almost ready, Callie? While Callie's kind of sharing too, I just want to give you guys an update. We are going to start sharing out the Father's Day message starting next week. So for those of you who've submitted a message, we will be reading them and putting them out next week. And I'm sure you guys have all heard the devastating news that we shared last week about us canceling our Bachelor series. Some stuff just kind of came up for the Bachelor that we have chosen, and he unfortunately had some other things that kind of stopped him to be a part of it. So we've just decided to cancel that series, and hopefully we will either pick it back up, or maybe some other projects would come up and Callie and I will spend our time working on that. But, it's just so much like time and effort. And so we just didn't want to start back at square zero. So we're just going to sunset that project for now. But if you haven't heard, now you know. We're resharing that news again.
So instead of finding love, I am finding friends. So, if you haven't seen my post, I did put out a post, and so I'm going to put a little bit of time into looking for some childhood friends, since people don't want us helping them find love. So I'm going to find friends instead. Let's see how that goes.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's so awesome. Like I reshared it into my personal, and I just feel like when social media became such like a big thing, right? Like when MySpace started to come around, I mean, even like Asian Avenue, but I feel like it was much harder in Asian Avenue versus like, all the other platforms there is now, where like I would try to find people and I would get so excited when people would respond back and be like, yeah, I am that friend of yours, back in like elementary school, right? So If you didn't know, Callie and I did not grow up in the Pacific Northwest. We grew up in California. So I was in Merced, Callie was in Fresno. And so Callie is looking for her friends from Fresno. And I have found a lot of my friends from Merced. There's one or two left, but it would be just so amazing to reconnect with people like, 30 years or 20 years later. So
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like it's, I feel like I spent so much of my life like focused on my career and my life. And I feel like now it's just like, I wonder where everyone is and what they're doing, what they're up to. I feel like things are starting to slow down. And so I think it's just really fun to, as you get older, you start reflecting on like your life and stuff. And I think it's nice to kind of just see where people are. So
yeah, it is really fun. I think, of course, you only see what people put on social media for you to see. But I think for those that I've connected with, it's just so amazing to see like how many kids they have and like what their partner looks like, instead of you just imagining what their life would be, they get to share some of that with you. So it is a really awesome feeling. So for those of you out there, if you see Callie's posts, if you know someone from Fresno, from those specific apartments, please help her out. Tag a Shang that you know. We don't know her last name. I know people have been
yeah, it might be Shane Yang. I'm trying to really dig deep in my memory bank, and trying to really figure out. And so yeah, so if you know a Shang, if you just tag them. All right, right now I'm just trying to find whichever Shang I can find who have lived in Fresno or grew up in Fresno, and so I feel like it's gonna be kind of a weave to kind of try to find her. And so, and Tony, I have shared two memories. Ghetto memories. So please go look at the video and see. So hopefully that will help.
Yeah.
Yes, in Chadsworth, yes, I did go pink. So we'll see how long we stay with that.
Yeah. So if you guys know a Shang between the ages of 34 and 37,
maybe 37, maybe.
Yeah. Obviously Nia Mong, so
yeah, that's right.
Last name. And yes, so if you know anyone that lived in Fresno during that time period where Callie is, please tag her. We would love to connect her with Callie. Maybe I might even send them on a date, fly Callie down there or something, You just never know.
That would be so cool. And then we can go dumpster diving again.
Can I? I'm gonna be the
you can totally
yes, I will record you guys doing it.
Reliving our memories.
Yeah.
All right, shall we get started?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, so today's episode, we have two special guests with us talking about marriage and making it work. And so we've got Phong and Misty here with us, and they've been married for 27 years, which is amazing. They met while in college and dated for 3 years and have raised 3 beautiful children. They love to spend time with their kids and whenever possible travel. They love spontaneous trips, especially trips to the coast and going on long road trips where they can talk about nothing and everything. And I think that's especially important because if you are with a partner and you cannot talk to them, then I feel like but with that, we are going to bring them on. And so we will address some of the questions that y'all asked and try to get to them, but please do feel free to ask them as we go along as well, and we will try our best to have them answer those questions.
Yeah. We are going to be doing this one. So we get to see your faces. Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us, Phong and Misty.
Hi, you guys. How's it going?
Good. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
Like Friday can't come fast enough.
I only started.
I know yes Monday taki. I was so exhausted just from the weekend.
Yeah, it was hot this past weekend in Fresno, so it was like, oh. And then I have Phong working out in our garden.
Yeah.
So he did
the joy of being in California, Fresno, particularly in the summer.
Yeah. Lucky for you guys, it was raining super hard here in Oregon. So
Gonna some of your water, okay?
Yeah, we need it. We need some of that rain.
Our garden needs it.
Yeah. It's always hot down there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's jump right into it then. Yeah. Obviously, we're talking about marriage today, And, I think that this topic really stemmed from us talking a lot about, we've had a lot of episodes about divorce, and then we had an episode with Yepa about marriage and just kind of understanding marriage in general from the Hmong culture of like warachi dachina, right? But not necessarily just talking about the challenges of being married and choosing your partner, waking up and choosing your partner every day, and what does that encompass, and the challenges that you have to kind of go through. So we're super excited that the both of you were willing to kind of come on and talk with us through that. So the first question we have to ask is, what did you learn about love and marriage growing up? What did you see? And did this affect how you approach your own love life and marriage?
You can go first, honey.
I think for me growing up, I only saw that marriage was about work. Like I take my own parents, right? And so all I ever saw was my mom and dad just worked all the time.
Mhm.
And every chance they got on the weekends. They never took a break. So, like growing up, I always just thought that marriage meant that there were two people, you settle down and you just work all the time for your kids. And I think about it and I look back, and there were times when my parents were like farming and then they were working, and then my mom was like farming and working two jobs, right? And so that was that was my definition of love. And so
Mhm.
love meant that you just work really hard all the time for your kids.
Yeah, similar. I think we're probably not unique in this in this situation. I think for us being you know generation 1.5, I guess we can call it that, is that our parents are first gen, right? And but we weren't born here, so we experience the idea of the concept of love through their eyes, and it's really more through their action. For me, it's really providing, right? So as parents, they provided for one another, and more important than that, they provided for the family. So I think being there and providing was an extension of how much they sacrifice and they love.
Yeah.
So I think that automatically translates or transfers to the kids. In that your job is to provide as much as you can, and by providing, it means that automatically means that you show affection and love through the hard work that you put in.
I think too that what connected for me was I didn't think that love meant you fell in love
Mhm.
and you marry someone that you like. I didn't even know the concept of like falling in love, what that meant, because all I heard from my mom was, I didn't like your dad. I don't want to be married to your dad. Your dad came in Jikura.
Yeah.
And so like I was like, whoa, okay, I guess that's what it is, right?
Mhm.
And I think same thing for your your mom too, right? And for years I would just hear my mom say, that all I didn't have a choice in who I married.
Mhm.
And so I didn't really know the concept of like falling in love until like much later when I was like in my teenage years. And then, I would like watch movies and then I'm like, oh, I okay, that's kind of different.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think the concept of from my parents is that you can learn to love another person, even if you weren't in love with them in the first place. So I don't know if of our listeners out there, our participants, is that you probably saw that in your parents as well, is that they may have married back in Laos, for example, and they marry culturally because they can't date. So how do they get to know one another if they don't date, right? And then they get married, and then they grow up together, and they learn to love one another and learn about each other, and then they make it work. So the concept of love is beyond just in from my observation, was beyond just falling in love, but it's really how do you adapt, how do you accept, and how do you make it work in your relationship.
Yeah.
So it's much more holistic than I think that the concept of love that we have over
Mhm.
here in the Western world, I want to say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and definitely thank you for addressing that, because I think that we naturally tend to follow what we see, right? And so I think
Right.
that, like for our generation to have seen that growing up, but then to also be fed yeah, what's on TV, what's on Korean drama, and then trying to like marry the two where like you set your expectations too, right? Because you know that you're like you have this culture that is a little bit different from what's American mainstream to what's Korean mainstream and what's dramatized and story tells and whatnot. So this next question is, of course, I think everybody wants to know how old you both when you got married, and then was Paradise already popular? And of course, Missy, how did you deal with Fong and his fan schedule, concerts, travels, and the girls?
I think that we got married. I consider at the time that we were really young, right? I was 20, I was 19, 19. Like, who gets married at 19? I look at my daughter and she's 21, and I'm like, dang, what the heck was I thinking?
They're thinking the same thing right now.
Yeah. And I think, so when we first started dating, I knew that he was in a band, but the band had not taken off until we actually had gotten married, right? And at 19, so kind of going back to the comment the question you asked earlier about,
Mhm.
what kind of love did you see, right? I think that, by nature, I have a little bit of a rebellious streak in me. So, so I was kind of like, wow, I'm not going to marry somebody I don't love. And like I was my mom, you're not, nobody's choosing for me, and I'm not going to marry somebody I don't love, and I'm going to fall in love, and then I'm going to marry that person. Otherwise, too bad, so sad for whoever, right?
Mhm.
So I met Fong, and I actually didn't like him at first. I'm sorry, but he was a
That's
little,
okay.
he's a little bit annoying. He was a little annoying, and and actually, uh, and I actually didn't really, like see him and go, oh my god, that's the guy I want to be with, right? It took a little bit, and then it was like, oh, you know what, I really do love this guy, so and then I'll address the question about the band after you answer about.
Well, for me, it was the opposite. I'm not even lying. I'm
Oh,
like, wow, she's the one for me. Misty she was right. She is you know very bubbly and a very I think her she has a personality that really resonated. So yeah, I met her when I was um, you were 19. Well, we got married when I was 21.
I was
So we were
17 when I
young.
met you.
Yeah, we met first year of college for her, and I was 21. So we
No,
were
you were
young.
not. You were not 21. You married me when you were
No.
21.
I was saying when we got married, when I
Okay.
was 21. So when we were when I was my daughter's age, we were married already. So, but I don't think it was uncommon back in the
mhm.
90s, right? Because it was natural. I mean, it was normal in the culture itself for Hmong women and men to marry a little bit earlier than now.
Yeah.
I think if you were to talk to my kids about getting married, they would be looking at you like, what are you talking about? But times changed, right? So back then, 21 was an average age, really. I mean, 19 for a Hmong girl was average, right? So yeah, so that's how we met, and she definitely swept me off my feet back then. So
Yeah. So when we were dating, the band was like the band was he was in the band, and I knew he was in a band, but it had not taken off, and so like probably about our second year in our marriage,
like it was a late 90s
yeah.
already.
So we had not had kids yet, and the band started to take off. And to your question, that's when I really had to learn, right? Because then all of a sudden the schedule became the band, and
Mhm.
it was I had to share Fong with other women that were fans, and then the kids came, and I had to figure out like the balance between being a mom, being a wife of a person who was in a band, and then making sure that everything was around schedule around the band. I think the one thing that has been really, really important for me with the band is that um, I always knew that Fong's band was really important, and music is such an integral part of him. It's who he is. It's the makeup of the fabric of who he is. And so I knew I never wanted to make him choose between me or and the kids or the band. So that I knew from the very beginning that I was never going to make him choose. The other thing I knew was that I also knew that the fans had expectations when, you know, they would come to the concerts, or they would meet them, or they would go to the VIP meet and greets and stuff like that. And so knowing all of that, I always knew that when he was on stage and he was in the band, he was a different person. And then when he would come home, he was my husband and the father to our kids and a son and all that. So, you know, I just learned really early on to not cross those. But I also learned to have appreciation for the fans. And the fans not only meant a lot to him, but they also meant a lot to me, because when the fans would come, they don't want to see his wife like hanging all over him, right? They come to see Fong. And so sometimes it was almost kind of like him going, hey, come on, you know, come with me. And I would be like, no, that's for you and your time with your fans. And I'm completely okay with that. And I think him knowing from the very beginning that I was completely okay with that, made it easier. And I would verbalize and let him know, hey, I'm okay. I'm completely okay with that. I don't have a problem with that. And so I think like confidence has never really kind of been an issue with me. So I don't know.
She was my best coach, Misty. You know, the success in the band is mostly hers, because you know, in order to get as far as we have, it takes people like Misty, and because of her, how you know, her creativity, and also how supportive she's been, and ideas that she really, you know, sometimes I do things, but she's the woman behind it, and then she tells me what to do. And you know, like, so it's not just a one person thing, you know. And for me to have been successful, it takes her to be right next to me. So she is my best coach in this, and she still does it, you know. Like, when, even though years later, when I'm a camera, I'm doing my live things, you know, with the new album, she's the one who is behind the camera and tells me, you do look this way, you don't look this way. Raise your chin, lower your chin. Okay, you know, you gotta look like this, and that's what I love about her. You know.
You know, I think I get asked a lot. I get asked a lot if there was ever like any jealousy, or if I ever felt threatened,
Yeah.
and if I felt that, that, you know, he was going to do something that maybe be, you know, break our trust or anything like that. And I have to say that I those things never really cross my mind. And because if you let those things cross your mind, then it starts to like, you start to tell a narrative in your head, and then you start to believe something in your partner that maybe wasn't never. It's kind of like you start to see ghosts, and you're like, whoa, wait a minute, why am I doing this, when it's all in your head, right? The other person's not doing anything to you. And so, you know, I tell people, I actually really never really, like, being jealous never occurred for me. It never really was an issue with me. Um, and I actually feel like when people like him, it was a compliment to me. You know, I know that sounds really weird, but and sometimes I say that to people.
But I want you to be a little bit jealous too.
But I felt like, I just kind of feel like there was no need, you know, to be jealous, because I always just, I mean, he never gave me reason to be.
Yeah.
She's the woman behind it all. I have to admit that, and you know, I know we spent a lot of time on the question, but she is, she made me who I am, and you know, that's just the way it is. I mean, and it takes two to make it happen. And like I said, it's she's there when I need her to be, and she's always been there, and so that's why, you know, I'm able to do the things I do.
Now, I will say we're not perfect, so trust me, like, we are not perfect, and
that's why we need each other.
and we're not And we're not experts at this either, honestly, to tell you guys the truth. That's why when you guys first asked us,
Yeah.
when you ladies asked us, would you guys do this, we were kind of hesitant, and I was like, oh, I don't know, because we are so not experts at this,
Mhm.
and we like fumble every day in this marriage.
Yeah.
So you know
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's the beauty of it too, though, because we wouldn't want a perfect couple to come on and talk about how perfect their life was, right? Because marriage is hard. I don't think people realize that. And the ones that do, they work really hard to like choose each other every single day. And so, I'm glad that you made that statement. I'm glad that you guys you guys made a decision to kind of come on and tackle this topic with us. And so, um,
yeah, because there were times when when you say, like, we went through some really really tough times. I mean, you know, um, just think about it in this way. For 14 years of my life as Fong's wife, everything everything revolved around the band. And
mhm,
so it was work, the band, the kids. The kids' birthdays were planned around the band schedule. We For 14 years we never had a Christmas. Like normal people would have Christmas mornings. Well,
mhm,
Christmas morning they were setting up at the fairground or getting ready for the concert.
mhm,
We our kids would have their birthdays and he would be touring, and so it was like, hurry up, just what birthday, just goodbye, that kind of stuff. And so there were times when I was really frustrated and I was like, oh my gosh, I just want a normal life like everybody else. So
yeah,
so it was hard, and he could see that, like, especially towards the middle when I was starting to like I would go to him and say, I want a career, like,
mhm,
I want more in my life. I want to do other things and stuff. And so, like, going back to school and getting my degree in administration, and now figuring out, how do we do this, because if I always have the kids, and you every night, I mean, had to go and write songs, and composing music doesn't just come like that too. Like,
yeah,
it'd be like 1 a.m. and he get a song in his head, and he get up and start recording, and I'm like, what are you doing? It's like 1 a.m. and he's singing, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
after a while that gets old.
Yeah.
Lots of things to work through.
Yeah.
All right. So obviously we talked a little about earlier about you guys seeing your parents' marriage and then just kind of learning from them and then incorporating into yours. Do you think the value of marriage has evolved in the last decade or has changed?
The value of marriage.
Mhm,
I think it definitely has, because there's a lot of influences now, right?
mhm,
And social media has a lot to do with that. And so what you see on TV, Korean dramas, it's almost kind of like there's a perfect way to be married, and then you get married and you're like, oh my god, I got to learn how to live with this person and their
mhm,
quirks and their habits. And I didn't realize this, until I actually like am with the person. And so then everything you're seeing in the movies and everything you're reading about in the love stories and the novels, it's not like that. And you actually have to make it work. And so um, I think that it's changed a lot. It,
mhm,
it, it's changed a lot, and I think that it's easier for people to just walk away than to stick it through, and just to make something work.
Mhm.
mhm,
Yeah, I think that from like our parents to us to our kids now, I think the value has changed. I mean, I think about my parents, the value of being married is to start a family. You know, to be regarded as adults, to be regarded as elders, to have a family, to build a community, right?
mhm,
That's the value of marriage back in the days. And then for us, I mean, we're kind of like in the middle, right? And then we're getting a little bit of our parents, which is still like the value of a family, the value of hard work, the value of providing. But at the same time, we also get a little bit of that, the the values from our society that we live in, which is the Western culture, which is now you get exposed to what others feel about or portray about marriage in this country. And then now you're going to our kids, and I see a lot of like more of that companionship, right, which is very important now, where you have to fit. Like it's almost like now you have to find somebody that fits with you, versus before, like we may not fit, but we made it work. Like we fall in love and we make it work. But now it's more like the audition. It's almost like an audition before you marry. Maybe that's why it takes a little longer now for younger people to get married, because they have to find the almost like I don't want to use the word perfect, but I guess for them it's like the match. You have to match, and not matching as in you have to be compatible, right? When we got married, I think we didn't think about compatibility. We thought about, okay, we fell in love, and we never thought, okay, what's got your attitude versus my attitude and things like that. We just kind of jumped in and made it work, learn as you go. But now uh, it looks like you have to kind of figure it out before you decide to get together, and that's why it takes a little longer. So definitely, I think the value for me, like my observations, it has changed through the years.
Yeah, that's definitely, I think in the US, right, there's more of that individuality and being heard and seen in a relationship and making sure that you stay true to who you are, which can sometimes collide with that relationship. So, Missy, you mentioned about, our parents' generation. And so much of that generation were about individuals that, they gave so much to their kids, right? I think about my own father who, his whole life, I didn't know he liked fishing until we all left the house. And then all of a sudden he fishes all the time. Like, oh my gosh, like I wish he could have fished with, us growing up. But how do you work in your own self so that you don't lose yourself in either your relationship or your children?
I think for me, finding yourself is really important. And I don't think that we ever get to a point where we really find like you find yourself, right? Like I think all of us as human beings, we're always on a constant journey to search to be better, to do better, to make a better impact on others, on the world, that kind of thing. And so, but I think for me, you have to, I know like at the core, who I am and what I stand for and the things that I love and the things that I believe in. And so I think those were some of the things that that we had conflicts with, right? Because I was so set on this is who I am, this is who I am all about. These are the things that I believe in, and if you don't like believe in that, then oh well, so sad for you, right? And you better conform to me. And I learned that it's not so much about that, but it's about discovering discovering who you are as an individual. But then the where it really starts to where you start to find like compassion and love and courage for one another is when you start to discover each other as one. Like how do you blend two very different, because Fong and I, we have very different, we weren't always like this, and so we have very different personalities. And while we're very much the same, but we're also very different. And so it was like, how do we like intersect and integrate the two personalities, and then like come to mutual understanding so that we don't lose each other, but we actually help each other find each other. Like if that makes any sense. I don't know how you
Yeah.
feel.
Well, yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that in order to find ourselves, or each other, in this case, is I think when you first get married, there's always that's especially when you're young. Uh, I think it's part of growing up is that you're immature and that you think that you can you can win all arguments, I guess, for and then that you have to come out top, and that there's always, so also because you're young, you have that spirit of competitiveness as well, right?
Mhm.
And so you want to you want to compete against one another, and I think that's one of the biggest challenge that we had to face was because we're so competitive that we are we when we first got together, I mean, it was somewhat a competition. I mean, it's a good competition in that it really pushed us because we try to be the best that we can be, right? And so sometimes it's good because it really pushes you forward. uh, you know, or we kind of push one another up.
But
And
sometimes it got like the competitiveness got could get pretty toxic
Yeah.
because then it wasn't about you as together as a team anymore. It became, like, you're competing against each other versus you're competing for each other.
right.
And
Mhm.
so, I would say that's where we struggled
Hmm.
was, we started to look at each other as competition versus like we're actually like really good together.
Mhm.
So, I think it took a while for us. Um, it took a while for us to realize that we were better together when we weren't competing with one another.
Mm. Yeah. I think that's a good realization that sometimes it doesn't come right away. I think you have to go through those challenges to kind of realize that, right? And I think going through those challenges and that kind of um, sets up well for the next question because when you talk about things that like your competitiveness, 这种como que 喜欢, right? So, are there any marriage rules that you have as a couple? Some people like to you don't go to bed angry at each other, or that you hold hands when you're arguing. So you don't idea you're angry, but you're still together. So, are there any marriage rules that you guys have?
um, well, I think that our marriage rules, I mean, we keep it simple. I think for us what works really well, and it may not work for everybody, but for us what worked really well after years of trial and error is is we find out that communication is key. Like communication is, it's, I think in our relationship is if we were to ask me what is the most important thing in my relationship with Misty, it would be a great communication. Like how do we communicate? How do we learn each other so that we know what our boundaries are, but at the same time we understand one another where we don't overstep each other's barriers and come to an agreement still, and doing it in a genuine way, understanding a loving way. That's key. And so the communication is by far I think it precedes or supersedes any other physical activity of whether it's hugging or kissing or holding hand. Is if we didn't have a clear like way to communicate to one another or trusting way to communicate, I think that nothing will come out beyond that. So we really love to talk. I mean, that's one thing that like we love to talk to one another. It's not so much to other people, but like, we love to talk with each other because and we enjoy that. Like I always tell Misty, uh, the thing I enjoy the most about going on trip with her is not the destination, but it's the road trip. It's just the time I spend with her in a car when nobody's around and just her and me, and we're in there for 2, 3, 4 hours, and then we just talk. And then by the time you know it, we're at the destination already,
Yeah.
and we talk all the way and all the way back. I don't let her sleep at all. So uh, like an example is one time right before COVID, huh? Was it
Yeah.
before COVID? We,
We,
we took
we,
a trip to Vegas.
we
And
went on this trip to Las Vegas. It took us
it was
27
yeah, it
hours.
was like a long
Oh,
trip because
wow.
there were fires and they closed all
Oh, no, no, there was a
Oh,
fire and then
and
they
there was
closed the
snow.
road. And then we got to this one point and it started snowing. So then they closed the roads again. And so we were completely stuck. And it was like a zombie apocalypse. Like people were fighting over gas. We were stuck. And the whole
oh,
time people were like all stressed out, like trying to get out of there. We're just sitting in the car talking. All right. And we talked all the way. And I think the other thing why is we learned to not push each other's buttons. So, like in our earlier years, like I knew what if he pissed me off and he got me mad, I knew exactly which buttons I was going to push to like get him back, right? It was all about like, all right, you're gonna do that, huh? Let me show you. Let me show you what I can do, right?
Yeah.
Let me show you what I can do to get back to you. And then it became a war. Like, all right, you want to do that? Okay, I'll show you. You fine. I'll do the sorry, I'm not sorry, sorry, not sorry
Mhm.
kind of thing. But I'll say sorry to you this time. But I know that there will be a next time, and then
Mhm.
it's going to be my chance to get back at you. And what we learned was, man, that was like just not healthy,
Yeah.
for us. And so we just learned, like Fong knows, and the kids know that when I come home, I hate a messy house. Like if I come home and the house is messy, I'm already
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And so he knows. And so after a while, I noticed that man, do everything and then I think he figured out that man, if she comes home, and then he started calling, hey, when you're coming home. And then before I got home, he'd be like, kids, clean. And so the kids would tell me, mommy, before you got home, daddy made us clean the whole house, right?
Mhm.
And little things like that. Or like if I know, when he's traveling for the band, it's very stressful. And I know that there are certain things that I can do to help calm him down right before he gets on the stage, or certain things that I could do to help him, because he's got to lug all this gear and he's got to do all this. And so after a while, we started going, wow, she's very helpful, or he's very helpful. um, and then I think the other thing is, people will say, don't go to sleep mad at each other.
Mhm.
We just go to sleep. We just, because sleep is really precious. We work a lot of hours, and so if we're mad at each other, we will just look at each other and go, all right, we're really tired, can we just talk about it, so
Yeah.
we don't have the 2 a.m conversations.
Yeah, well, I think we stopped doing that after many years. It just wasn't that beneficial. After a while, we figured out that we tried it, but I think it's really. I think if you have really good communication, you can avoid a lot of that. One of the rules I think that I try to abide with or live with is the fact that I know it sometimes there's no way to get around arguments. I mean,
Mhm.
part of growing up as a married couple is that you have to. I don't call them argument. I think I characterize it more as intense discussions or
I
yeah,
agree.
there are discussions.
Yeah.
I mean, because you learn from them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but I think it's really knowing how to say you're sorry first, versus when we were a lot younger, we were like,
You never said
I
sorry.
know it was like you go first and I'll go after. But now I think we're really learning that I should be the first one to say I'm sorry, because it just calms everything
Or
down,
it was
right?
like, who's gonna hold out the
Yeah.
longest?
So I think maybe we're just getting too old for that. So those of you who are young, maybe you
Yeah.
won't get that. But when you get to our age, you'll be like, okay, fighting is just not that worth it anymore. So you just kind of like, uh, you know, calm it down by just accepting the fact that you gotta bend first. You gotta say you're sorry first, so that the other person could calm down. Another thing that I mean I do, and Misty does too, is that it helps a lot to lower your voice, right? And when especially when you know that it's getting heated,
I
you
know,
you
he's
should.
so annoying.
Yeah,
Like
well,
if I get heated, he starts to lower his voice, and I'm like,
it
why are
forces
you?
everybody to talk
And then I'm
at a
like,
low
why?
volume.
I'm like getting mad. I'm mad at you right now, and he's like, it's okay. I'm like, I know it's not okay. So
I
I'm like, I think
That's a strategy he
it's a
uses.
strategy. I'm like,
Yeah.
you're using that strategy on me.
I think teachers out there know what I'm talking about. Is when kids are rowdy, you lower your voice, and the kids start to listen more. So I
Yeah.
think in order to hear each other more, you need to talk at a much lower volume sometimes. But those are things. But I have to say, I think we have some men listening as well. There are some rules. I think some rules that I definitely live by, or some principles. I want to call them rules because Misty is not forcing me to do it, but some principles I definitely live by, or with my wife. It's important for Misty, is that uh, she she will always tell me the same three things. And I don't know about you out there, but it could be different. But Misty only wants me to tell her I love her every day, and
Not every day.
every day, and she wants me to show her that I love her, you know, uh, and she wants me to help around the house, and that's it. I mean, they're all free. They're very
Mhm.
easy. It's easier said than done, obviously, but I think that with a lot of work and practice, you get it, and it's
So we were going through. It was right around the time where the band was. The band was really popular at the time, and I think we were we had an argument, and he asked me. He said, "What do you want from me?" You're like, "What do you want?" And I just said, "What I want, you can't do." And so I just said three simple things. I said, what I want from you does not cost you anything, and you can do it. You can do it completely free. And I just said, and I think most women want this. And I said, I just need to know that you love me, and I need to, like for you to verbally say, because for him to say he loves somebody, he's never like uttered. It's very hard to say I love you to a person. So it was really hard for him to say just those words, right? I said, if you love me, I need you to hear you say it. And then I want you to show me that you love me. And then I want you to help me around the house. That's it. And so, um, he said, all right, I'll do it. And then in my head, I was thinking, yeah, uh, I, yeah, I doubt you'll do this because you haven't done it for the last 14, 15 years, right?
Yeah.
And sure enough, like he started to do it. And the first couple of times I was like, okay, well, let's see how long this lasts, right? And then like a couple of days turned into weeks, and then turned into months, and turned into, years. And then it just became kind of something we do naturally for each other.
Yeah. I love that. And I think too, like, Alika, I think sometimes like the principles that you live by, it's just so important to do it for your spouse, not just for yourself. You're like a team, and
Yeah.
to know what buttons not to push and when to push. To have different strategies that you can use to calm the situation down. And that was another question I was going to ask you. And I think that your little strategy that you mentioned, Fong, kind of answered it, but like just different like mechanisms that you use in order to communicate how you're feeling. Because right? Like you're angry at each other. Are there ways that you start off a conversation like I'm having this conversation with you because I feel this way, or does the conversation just kind of like come naturally?
I think for me, the when I'm upset with Fong, I don't pretend. So like I don't because it's very hard for him to try to figure out what is wrong with me.
Mhm.
Right? So if I'm going to be silent about it and go, oh, well, you should know, right? Well, what if he doesn't know? So I have learned over the years that if I'm upset, I just tell him why I'm upset, and I tell him exactly why I'm upset, and I tell him exactly what he did that hurt me or that got me upset.
Mhm.
And sometimes he's like, whoa, I didn't even realize I did that, or that's not what I meant at all. um, I didn't mean it in that way. So I don't beat around the bush about how I feel. um, and I don't know,
yeah.
he does the same. Like if he's upset with me, he tells me exactly, I'm upset with you because you said this, or because you did this, or you didn't ask me, and you just told me to go do this, and I
Mhm.
really didn't really want to do it.
Yeah.
So it just
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just who we are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that we learn to really cut the chase. I mean, really, I mean, if you feel upset or something, or if you I mean, besides being upset, there's sometimes we have disagreement about even certain topics about kids and so forth, right? I mean, you have to resolve those as husband and wife as well, and you do have to eventually come to a consensus or an agreement. So you are gonna have disagreement, or you are gonna have arguments, but we understand that in the end, I think that we learn to uh, uh, agree that the end result is the same. Is
Yeah.
however long you take to argue over a topic, is that at the end the both of you have to agree on something. So why not make it as constructive as possible and be as honest as possible? I mean, we've learned to be very comfortable with that. And I don't know if everybody is, but we are very comfortable with having a conversation like calmly, like not even like raising voice and like, you know what, let's have a conversation. There's something that really bugs me, and here's what it is. And then after I'm done, okay, let's hear your side. And then, oh, okay, then we start talking back and forth. By the time you know it, we got it figured out. I mean, so
Yeah.
sometimes it's simple, but you just got to kind of learn how to do it.
Yeah.
I think one thing too is Fong and I have had a lot of things happen in our life where, we've lost a lot of people that we've loved. We have we've gone through a lot of like hardships and a lot of tragedy and stuff too. And so we've learned that life is really short and that we want to spend the rest of our life um, just enjoying life, together and the people that we love. Because, I just think about like some days, I don't want to look back and go, when he's not around to say, gosh, I wish I had one more day with him.
Mhm.
Where I have had that with people in my life, and I've thought about them every single day, going, I wish I had one more day with them, and I would have said these words, or I would have done this, or I would have been more forgiving, more forgiving. I would have been more loving, towards that person. So when we went through a lot of the losses that we've had in our lives, we realized that. We didn't want that, with each other. And I think there was a point too, like,
I think that's one rule that I think that we both have. I mean, all the other ones are not rules because we don't force one, but like the rule that we should love like today's our last day. I think that's definitely kind of like the golden rule for us, is that
Mhm.
we live by that every day. So we try to do the best we can with the day that we have, as if there's not tomorrow. I mean, you never know, right? So
Yeah.
I think that seemed to work really well with us, and it just brings us together. I mean, uh, that's a bond. I think if there's any bond between us, that is the bond that keeps us strong together.
That's the glue. I love
Yeah.
it. So how do you support your partner with his or her dreams without kind of losing your own? I know, Missy, you talked a little bit earlier about like Fong and the band, and then after a while you're like, I want to focus on me. So kind of talk us through that journey of like what that was like. Like how do you support each other but not lose yourself or lose your own dreams?
I think for me, like for a long time, Fong was always in the public eye, and with the band, and it was our life was very public. And
Mhm.
then like I went to him and I just said, I want a life of I want my dreams. I want my dreams. You have lived the things you wanted to do, and here are my dreams. And so I thought he was gonna like react in a very different way to say, nope, like you got to sacrifice, right? And you got to keep sacrificing. And it was really, I knew the turning point for me was when I went to him and I told him, I want to go back to school. I want to get my administrative credential. I want to, become a school administrator, and I want to do other things in my life. And he said, okay, so then we should end the ban. I should end the ban, and I should stop doing what I'm doing so that I can be home, I can be with the kids, and you can go and pursue the things that you have wanted to do. And so, um, we have always kind of supported each other, in that way. Um, and then all of a sudden, my life, I became very public, and I became, very like when you become like kind of the first to do something in your line of work, you're looked at with a lot of scrutiny, and
Mhm.
there's just not a lot of room for failure or a lot of room for you to mess up, right?
Mhm.
And I think that I think if I didn't have Fong, I honestly will say I could not be where I am today had it not been for him. So like everything that I have become and who I am and what I've done has been because he has taken a step back to allow me to shine for the moment, moments in time, so that I can do, and pursue what I've done. Um,
Yeah, um, her success is my success. That's just how I see it. So I think that if you see it that way towards one another, then you will, end up to the place that you both want eventually, because we are in this together. In the end, is that we're in this together, and wherever she goes, I'm going to be going with her. Wherever I go, she's going to go with me. So I think that it's important for me to realize that, and it's okay. I know that Misty has a lot more of the spotlight because of her position and her role in the community and how well known she is, and I'm totally okay with that. I'm totally okay standing behind her while she's talking.
Mhm.
Like, and she gets invited to a lot more speaking engagements than I do, and I'm back here and I clap for her. I'm her biggest critique, because we see it always as how do we improve one another, right? So I'm there for her, watching her, supporting her, and when she's done, I mean, she always asks me, how could I've spoken better? So I give her, some feedback and so forth, and that's how we move on together.
I think what's hard is that like all of a sudden our roles got reversed, and he went from like very popular band member, very loved in the band, to all of a sudden I started, um, getting invited to the to be the keynote speakers, to do this, to do that, and then all of a sudden it was like, earning wise, um, and I was, I have to say, for a moment I felt a little insecure, because I was like, should I be doing this? Because what if it makes him feel a certain way? Or what if my own community starts to look at it as in, oh, yan nu tu pon niya, I nu jaw, because I mean, I have to say there are times when I travel a lot and I travel on my own, or gu mu no gu do zineng bai, gu bai mu shala, all across the country, and
Mhm.
he's not there with me, right? And so, at first I did get a lot of people nói hạt tiệt, oh, or nói hạt cho nữ tiệt có sai hiểu chạy có tụi bọn em muốn đi chuyên gia đó có, and stuff like that, right?
Mhm.
And,
Mhm.
but I also had to learn that um, for our community to grow, and our bây giờ tuân thái lúa, and our, especially the women, we have so few people out there, right? And I just feel like if somebody doesn't pave the way,
Yeah.
then like I just know that if one person does it, then other people will start to look at it and go, gosh, I could be that too, or I can do that and I can do it even better, and so was it hard? Yeah, I mean, there were nights or there were days where I was just like, 在有几更早，在有几J早，在有几, am I good enough? Am I good enough for this? And it really helps when you have someone that's by you going, yeah, you are good enough. And for Fong, it's always been, you are good enough and you're even better. You're even better. And so that has been my source of like inspiration. Um, and so, I mean, like we shared earlier, it hasn't been easy at all. um I think it's just that we just
But
worked really
yeah,
hard.
and we make those hard decisions together. I know that Shai is asking about the decision thing, but we do make those big decisions together. It's not like, okay, now you're in the spotlight, or you're more popular, more visible, you earn more, so now you're gonna make the decision. It doesn't work like that with us. With us,
Mhm.
it's, oh, here's an opportunity, and I may have a shot at it, right? What do you think? And usually, I mean, we talk about it. I mean, we reflect on it, and we don't move on it until the other person really think that it's the right place for that person,
Mhm.
because again, we also have to protect one another. It's not
Yeah.
just pushing, but also protecting too. And most of the time, I mean, like I'm the one. I mean, if it's an opportunity for Misty, of course I'm gonna tell her, okay, yeah, I think this is the right place for you. I think that it's a right fit. You're the best person. You should definitely go for it. And she does the same thing for me. And so we just need to learn how to do that. And we, by being open to really give feedback to one another. It just I think it just I don't know, like liberates us in a way where we don't feel like we're constrained,
Yeah.
certain things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely love how, in the beginning, Misty really supported you and your endeavors and being that mature person of recognizing that work is work. And then now, it's kind of like come full circle, right? Where you get to be that support for her and give her that assurance. Because I think you're absolutely right, Misty. It's like having a secure person. Yeah, God, you still tell, you can go and do a great job at your work and not feel like I have to, lessen myself a little bit so that my man can feel secure. But instead, Fong's back there feeling secure. And so much kudos to that. And so when you guys were just talking about how you guys love to talk and be in the car and all that good stuff, I can feel like the love between the two of you of just still that excitement that continues on. And so what do you think is the best way to keep the love alive in a marriage?
Well, we date a lot.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's corny. I know it's kind of
As
corny,
often as we
but
can.
we date as often as we can. And in fact, it's funny because if you ask our kids, especially our little boy, he's like, "Oh my gosh, okay, mom and dad, like are falling in love again," that kind of thing. And I I think we just, like, over the years, we have found ways to never be tired of each other. And so, like, when we're together, our titles don't matter. And, our titles, our earnings, none of that matters when we're together. When we are together, we are just two people who are goofy. We do crazy things, and we enjoy, each other's company. Um, and I don't. It's just kind of weird. I mean, like,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to explain it, but we just love being with one another. Like we go on trips, and most of the time our kids don't go with us. I mean, they don't even
they
want
don't
to
think
go,
we're
and
cool enough to.
yeah,
They
and
don't
then
think that we are cool enough to hang out with anymore.
and they, I don't know if they used to us, they want us to have our own time or whatever it is, but like we really enjoy time together. I mean, just time together, whether it's like I can't even recall like maybe the last time when we went somewhere not together. Like
Okay, like even like if we have to go to the grocery store and
we go
at
together.
which store lot Jaina, he's like, okay, กูต่อก็รอมาไป.
Yeah, I don't know if we're just used to it or maybe we're too clingy to one another. I don't know, whatever it is.
But I do think that, and one of the biggest reasons why we agreed to do this show with you is that I think that the world the world is really hard. Life is really, really hard. So you have to pick the kind of hard you want, right?
Yeah.
You have to just pick the kind of hard you want. And I think that I think that in today's society, all we ever hear is, the broken marriages, the broken this, the broken that. And and I do believe that there are things out there that are very broken, but that sometimes broken is actually good. And so like we're just two very broken people.
We I mean, we enjoy one another. I mean, I mean, there's no way to explain that, but the I think that we don't want to live a life where I tell her how much I love her when she's no longer here, or vice versa.
Yeah.
If you have an opportunity to love somebody and you love them, then just love them. Just love them like fully, the best you can every day of your life. And I think that's what we do. And I mean, I don't know if that's how it works for us, but we just like
Yeah.
to be together.
Like
and
when
that's
I'm
just,
having really bad days, or I think about all the things that made me fall in love with him. I think about I think about the trips we take, and Fong has this car that he's in love with. Like he bought this car that sits in the garage and he washes, cleans it every day. And then we went on this one trip and he doesn't let it get dirty at all. And then but I love like flowers and I love like plants and stuff. And he'll like get the car all dirty and put my plants in there, right? So I'll think of things like that. I'll think of, oh, okay, he'll do things like that, or like,
The little things. I
yeah,
mean, like,
like Saturday
I don't know.
mornings, we love getting up early and we just go have coffee. And
Oh,
we
yeah.
just go have every Saturday morning. We get up really early and we go have
Yeah,
coffee.
we love that. And then the just sitting there looking at each other, not saying anything. Sometimes okay too. It's good. Uh, but like throughout the day, I mean, it doesn't take a lot of time, or doesn't cost anything to send a few texts back and forth. I mean, just like little things, but they keep us connected. I mean, more than anything, it really they keep us connected. Uh, how do you try, we have to, in order to stay together, you do have to fall in love with one another every day if you can. I mean, that's the way to go. I mean, if you could, you should. And I mean, we're doing our best to do that. And we love that. I mean, I don't know about you, but I love that. I love the fact that I can make my wife fall in love with me, you know all over again,
Yeah.
by just doing little things that don't cost anything, and
Yeah.
you just have to try.
Well, and I think like for me, most important is we have 3 children, and I want my kids to see love, um, not the way I saw it growing up. Like
Yeah.
especially for me, my daughter. Like I love my daughter. I love our kids. My baby girl. I want her to grow up knowing that there is such a thing that exists in the world, right? And so um, I just want to make sure that she sees that, and that there are good men out there, um, and that you can fall in love and still go through really tough, trying times in your life, and still like make it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you guys just give such like you guys pretty much did answer the last question, like, but I'm gonna ask it anyway because I feel like you guys just have so much wisdom and so much to share to our viewers. So our last question to you both is, what marriage advice would you give to a new couple just starting out?
You go first.
Okay.
You can go
Well,
first.
certainly. I mean, I'm no expert in this, but I think maybe just from experience, I could tell you that uh, marriage doesn't come with a handbook,
Mm-hmm.
with a guidebook. I want to say. I think that you know you will have to figure out. You get to design. Unfortunately, it doesn't come with a guidebook, but fortunately, you get to design your own guidebook. And this is where you get, when you get married, you need to learn. I think the key thing is you need to learn to discover each other, like truly discover one another. And that's when you start to write your guidebook about what makes it work between the two of you. And it's going to be different for everyone. But I think that's the beautiful thing about marriage, is that you get to create that, from two strangers, you coming together, and you get to really discover, and then you get to really write that you know that book about how your marriage will work and how to make it beautiful, than more beautiful than ever. So I think that will be my advice, is like, don't be afraid to discover. You have to discover. I mean, and don't think that you know it all, and that a marriage is never going to be perfect. Actually, the beautiful thing about an imperfect marriage, the beautiful thing about a not having a perfect marriage, is that, yeah, uh, it's actually the imperfection that makes a marriage beautiful.
I think Olivia and Kali, I want to address like Gonzalo. She says that
Mhm.
about intimacy, in the Hmong culture, and I think that for Fong and I, in our culture, it's kind of could be kind of hard for people to show love, right? And showing love by like kissing or holding hands or being affectionate or like doing that. And I think that um, that it's okay to actually, and then one of the things that we have found is that intimacy with one another, right? Where he holds my hand in the car. I mean, when he's driving, he holds my hand. Where we're in public, he holds my hand, and or every once in a while he'll sneak a little kiss, here and there. I think it's important for our kids to see that, and that it's okay to do that. And so advice I would give is that don't ever like stop being intimate, with one another. Yeah. In and there's many ways of it, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes intimacy is just like, showing affection to the person that you love. So I think that that's really important, and it's really important for a marriage, because after a while you could lose sight of one another, and then the more distant you become, the more you don't come back together anymore. And so I think my advice is like, don't don't lose the intimacy, with one another. That's really, really important.
Yeah, and one more thing I want to add, because Misty cut me off earlier.
Oh, I'm sorry.
um, and this one's mainly for the man. I mean, for the woman too. I think it goes both ways. Is your wife is only going to be as beautiful as you make her, and you know, um, your wife will want to surprise you, to be more beautiful if you tell her that she's beautiful and you make her feel beautiful. And I think this is something that's really important that I want to share, because uh, when a woman wakes up and she feels beautiful, her day's already better. So I just want to share that, especially for you who are, you're starting your life together, is that never lose sight of that, because it's easy for us to become complacent, because now you're married and you're like, dating is over, honeymoon is over. But just making somebody feel beautiful and making somebody understand that they're beautiful in all aspects, okay, inside and out, it just is so important to your relationship, to a relationship. It builds confidence in a person. It makes them feel superhuman. I mean, and when people feel like that, then they're happy, and when they're happy, then you're happy. So if you want them to be happy, then just make them feel beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes, so don't stop sending those good morning texts, right? Good morning, beautiful texts. All right, so we are up in the hour. I think for the most part, you guys have covered a lot of questions that a lot of the guests had in the post, but in this episode as well. Is there any last words that y'all have before we close up this episode? Any last thing that you haven't been able to address, or just any last words for our audience?
You go.
You go first.
You go.
Ladies first.
I think that I truly believe that when you being in a marriage, it's a lot of work. And I think what I would say is, you never know what someone is going through. And sometimes you look at a marriage, or you look at someone and you go, gosh, it looks how do they do it, and why does it look so good, right? And I think that you have to also understand that you have to work really hard for that to exist. And not like, sometimes when you feel like you're going to walk away, think about not walking away, if you can save it. So like, if you can save a marriage, save it. But I also want to convey too that, and like, if you definitely believe that it's the best thing to walk away, then I do admire people who are courageous enough, to walk away from a very toxic relationship, or if you're very unhappy, then and you've given it everything that you've got, then that it's okay too. right? And so like I said, you know, life is already hard. Choose the kind of hard that you want. And and you know, and I just say this all the time. I think that you know, a really good friend of ours, you know, gave us these words to live by, and you know, before he passed away, he like mentored Phong and I a lot on our marriage. He married us, and he said, you know, it doesn't cost anything, you know, in life, it doesn't cost you anything to be kind to each other, to be kind to other people, and that's something that I've always chosen to live by. You know, just to see good and to be kind to people. Um, so you know, it's kind of who we
Mhm.
are.
Yeah. I think my last word is that never stop trying. I think it's you know, even if you're not good at it, like I said, I grew up with parents that are not very affectionate, and I had to learn how to be affectionate. But it's not something that you can't learn, you know. And as long as you're willing to, you can learn it. It does take practice. It does. It does. And I mean, like for me and for Misty, it did take me years to learn it. But it's okay because you know I'm at a much better place, and she's at a much better place, and our relationship is at a much better place because I have put in the time and the effort to do it. So sometimes it does take practice, and but it's fine because it doesn't mean that you can't learn it, you can't do it. It just means that you may have to work a little harder at it, but it's definitely possible. So I do want to leave that as a kind of like a last note that you know, uh, keep trying, because if others can do it, you can do it too. It's not just it's not you know, it's not something that relationship marriage is probably the most complicated of anything. It's something that you can't define, you can't quantify, you can't really. You just have to experience it and learn how to navigate and learn how to kind of like work at it. But it's also, I think, the most beautiful thing once you kind of figure it out. Once you get to that level where it's like wow, you're totally in sync with one another and you're totally understanding of one another. It opens up to a whole different new world, and that's the place where you know I think that everyone would strive to be. So you know, just keep at it.
Yeah, hopefully
We
this
do. We still
helps.
try every day, and we
Yeah.
work at it every day.
Yeah, thank you both so much for being so brave to come on. I know that initially you guys were both nervous about just putting yourself out there, right? Especially you both are so public already. And, you know, we certainly don't want to bring you on and put you in a pedestal and make you feel like it's been a smooth ride. But I think it's in the conflicts, it's in your struggles that has really made your marriage admirable. And just seeing the two of you continue to fall in love and just really show us that yeah, even though we might have seen our parents love differently, that we can kind of change that and learn to love each other in the way that we needed to. And so hopefully everyone that joined us tonight found some good pieces of nuggets to be able to take away. Please do share this episode and do tag someone or share it with someone that you think will find this very informative. So with that, we'll see y'all next time. Have a good night.
Good
Bye.
night.
Bye.